Everyone wants to live an inspired life, yet so many people search for happiness following the footsteps of peers and taking advice from people who have different values and outcomes to which they're searching. There are people born into wealth, graduated from the best universities in the world, and there are people who have none of that and yet are living extraordinary lives full of fulfillment and reward. The purpose of this podcast is to share insights and strategies that allow you to question the status quo and think freely, so you can design your life and be who you want to be. We get one life. Time is our most valuable asset. I believe that when we're free and able to focus on meaningful work, we become better human beings. This is Always Free, and I'm your host, Jason Graystone.
Welcome to the leading podcast for financial empowerment and wealth creation. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can connect with Jason on social media and subscribe to the Jason Graystone YouTube channel for weekly videos. Don't forget to also subscribe to the weekly newsletter to receive frequent educational content and action steps to help you design your life so you can be who you want to be. For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongraystone.com.
Well, welcome back to the podcast, guys. I hope everyone's having a good week so far. And if you're listening to this for the first time, congratulations. You're now in the number one place for financial empowerment and wealth creation, where you're going to learn insights, tips, strategies to allow you to question what the masses tell you and actually design a life so that you can be who you want to be. And this is the first time you're listening ever. Make sure you either stop now and go back to episode 1 and start there, or make sure you go to episode 1 after this one. Okay, you're going to get the most out of this podcast series by going to number 1. It's been designed in a specific way. Even though some of the episodes have been a bit more ranty than others, generally there's a strategy to it. So go back and listen to number 1 and let me know what you think. So this week is completely kind of unplanned, no bullet points, off the cuff, and really it's kind of inspired by a couple of things really. We're running a traders workshop this week, and a lot of that has kind of coincided with some messages I've been getting on social media around excuses and why people are failing and why people can't do this and why people can't do that, and how people choose to just let life happen to them. And there's no way that you're going to build long-term sustainable wealth, but more importantly a free and flexible and empowered lifestyle by having that mindset. There just isn't. Okay, and it really started to make me think about how we think and how our thoughts are really the stem of everything ever in the universe, and how it all stems from a thought, depending on what we think and what choices we make and what decisions we make will then govern the actions that we take, and then kind of dictate what results we get from those actions, and so on and so on. But it all really stems from just being able to think, and that's why the power of your mind really is, limitless. It's only capped by what you're giving yourself permission to think. And we were talking about trading, and trading's a heavily mental game. It's like 90% mental and 10% technicals. And we was talking about this, and we kind of said that your thoughts really determine everything. So write that down. Thoughts determine everything. So I want to talk about thoughts, and I'm going to share with you a little story, personal story that I've never ever shared before publicly. And I kind of want to talk about how thoughts can really put you in one place or another. Now, first of all, there's a great book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. And in that book, he talks about, in fact, I'll read a quote. There's a quote from that book, and he says, "There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates and penetrates the interspaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. Man or woman can form things in their thought, and by impressing their thought upon formless substance can cause the thing they think about to be created." And what you need to understand is that success is already in you. Okay, people who have success, they don't think, oh, there's not going to be enough for me. There's not going to be enough money. There's not going to be enough land. There's not going to be enough gold. There's not going to be enough of relationships, enough men, enough women. They're successful because they're just focusing on the day at hand and chipping away. And then, like, a great example is Mark Zuckerberg. When Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook, he was in his dormitory at university, and he wasn't sitting there thinking, oh, there won't be enough money for me if I want to take this business to where I want to take it. All he was thinking about was the day after, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then just keep smashing it, because eventually he starts providing value. The currency that's already circulating around the world starts being drawn to him. And then he's just accumulating more and more and more because he's providing more and more value. And he's not thinking ever, oh, there's not enough for me if I want to take this business to that level. There's not enough money to go around. There's not this, there's not that. He's not thinking that. Same with Ben Francis. Ben Francis, who owns Gymshark, this week it was announced that Gymshark had a valuation of over £1 billion. And he posted on his social media, he said, I never ever thought I would post this, but Gymshark is a £1 billion plus company. And of course he didn't think that, because when he was ironing in labels into shirts in his mum's kitchen when he started, he was just thinking about how he was going to take it to the next level. He was never thinking there isn't enough for me to go around. Okay, and it was always just the thought of being able to believe that you could do something that took him to where he goes. And who knows what's in store for him? It'll become a global brand. It could be it could be 100 billion company one day. Who knows? It could be Nike. It could be Nike. So it really started, I was having a few conversations with people about thoughts and how it really dictates everything in your life. And we was talking about success. And the thing with success is people seem to think it's this external thing that they're going to put a backpack on and grab a walking stick and they're going to go on this hunt for their success. Okay, I just need to find that thing that, that's my success. And although, externally and in the future, that might be where your goals are, and that might be where your dreams are, and it might be your financial destiny, but it's not your success. Your success is already in you, and it comes from the thought of going, I'm going to go after it. I can do it, right? I'm going to give myself permission to go and do it. And if you don't believe that, think about where you are now, okay? And you might think that you're not quite where you thought you would be at this stage in your life. But the reality is, up until this point, you've made 35,000 decisions per day. Okay, that's about 12.7 million decisions per year, which is about 130 million per decade. And every single decision, left or right, left or right, left or right, you have been driven to make that decision. Your mind has made the decision, and then your body's just gone and done whatever choice your brain made, right? Your mind made at that time. So the only reason that you are not where you are or where you thought you would be is if someone has influenced your decision making. They've kind of intercepted the decision making process, and normally that comes from societal idealisms, peers, pressure from people who have outdated strategies, parents, guardians, people from the last generation who are telling you to, drive a manual car instead of an automatic, even though automatic cars existed. It was outdated information, right, that was irrelevant now. And now what we're thinking is, why did I listen to that? They didn't have the life that I wanted. And it just comes from having the thought and then making the right choices. So the choice process is the next thing. And the only reason you're making different choices and you're not where you thought you wanted to be is because your choices have been influenced, or the thing that where you thought you would be isn't really what you truly wanted. And nature has taken its course and pulled you to where you need to be. So if you find yourself making excuses of not being where you think you should be, you should listen to those excuses, because sometimes they're just, you make excuses because you don't actually want to be the thing that you think you should be, and you're just looking up to someone else and trying to be that. So listen to the excuses. What is the excuse? Because if the excuse is, I don't have enough time because I have to work, then you value work. Or I don't have enough time because I've got to go to the gym at that time, then you value the gym. Or I don't have enough time because I've got to look after the kids and the family, well, then you value the family. So listen to that and be guided towards that, because stop chasing things that you don't really want and see how you can go towards things that you do really want and maybe monetize that if it's a financial goal that you're after. So we was talking about excuses this week quite a bit, and I shared a story. I'm going to share a story here publicly for the first time ever. And essentially it's about me when I was growing up, because a lot of people say to me that, oh yeah, it's okay for you, you're successful, you've got this, you've got that, you've got a social following, you've got this business, that business, you're a trader, investor, you speak on stages, you're a speaker, and what they don't see is the fact that where I am had nothing to do with any physical or external influence. What it had to do with was my thoughts. And my thoughts then turned into choices and decisions, and then my decisions turned into actions. So I'll tell you a story. I grew up from ages 0 to 5, or 1 to 5, I grew up on a little place called Edinburgh Court, okay, and it's on a place called Grand Drive in Merton, and it was just me and my mum that lived there, because my real dad, or my blood dad, he was gone by the time I was 2, and he was getting other women pregnant and all the rest of it. It was a bit of bad news, and he was a bit of a cardboard gangster, okay, and during that time there, my mum also was a bit of a, she had emotional issues as well due to her upbringing, which meant that she was very hard shoulder. Okay, so she was quite prudish. So I couldn't really talk to her growing up about personal things or sex or anything like that, because it would be shunned. It would be, oh, don't bring that up, right? So that was me. And then me and my mum lived there till I was 5. And then when I was 5, we swapped with my nan and we moved to a place called Hatfield Mead, which is another estate, which I lived at till I was 18 years old. Okay. Now, up until then, I remember the electricity going, because we couldn't afford to pay the electricity, and the bailiffs knocking at the door, and I was sitting in a dark corridor outside the bathroom and all this kind of stuff, right? And when we moved to Hatfield Mead, the only reason we moved there is so I could have some friends, because there were some kids on that estate. So we swapped with my nan, and I grew up there, and I lived there till I was 18. Now, during that time, when I was about 11 or 12, I decided that I wanted to meet up with my real dad again. And my real dad was known for being a bit of an a-hole. And just the curiosity got the better of me, as it did as any kid approaching adolescence, and I wanted to meet him. And when I met up with him, he didn't really want anything to do with me. He actually, he shunned my kind of, he was kind of disappointed in me. He made a comment about my weight. I'd had some puppy fat at that time, and he made some comments about that. I felt like I wasn't welcome. When I went around his house, he kind of just watched TV all day, and he didn't really pay any attention. So I decided at that point, actually, yep, that's cured, scratched an itch. I won't see him again. And whilst we were at that flat, about a year later, he used to frequent this pub called the St Helier Tavern. This was about 1993, 94. And he used to frequent this pub, and it was called the St Helier Tavern. And it was known as a pretty rough pub, right? And about a year after I met him, we received this news that he was in the pub, and, he was approached by 2 men in the pub, and they sprayed him in the eyes with ammonia. Okay, and then they started to stab him, and they were stabbing him, right, over and over again. And anyway, the pub got broken out. It got broken up, and he went to hospital and all the rest of it. And he came straight out of the pub. He came straight out of hospital and went straight back to the pub the following week with a baseball bat, and sat on the wall outside with a pint. And he was hoping that they'd come back. And the thing with this guy, he was pretty well known, and he was a big guy, and he had people working for him and all the rest of it. It was a bit of a dark character, and I think the guys knew that if they didn't come back and finish him off, that they'd be kind of looking over their shoulder forever, right? And that's what they did. They came back, they drove round, they parked right outside the pub. He was sitting on the wall, and they pull out a sawn-off shotgun and they shoot him in the face. And he gets blasted off of the wall, and he starts coming through. He starts coming to, and he thinks people are helping him up. In fact, what they're doing is slashing his face off with a knife, and then he goes to hospital again, and it gets broken up. Anyway, the pub was actually closed down following that event. It was in the newspapers and everything. You can go and search this up. It's called the St. Helier Tavern, and it was closed down due to a man shot in the face with a sawn-off shotgun. Well, that man was my biological father. So all that was going on. So I'd kind of grown up with just my mum. Dad left. He was getting other women pregnant. Met up with him. He didn't really want to know me. Had a scarcity mindset towards money because I could have easily linked negative thoughts of the electricity going out and bailiffs knocking at the door and all that kind of stuff to negative side of money. We then moved to a flat where I couldn't really talk to my mum about my problems. I was surrounded by people who were negative towards money, and they were telling us how, the money was for, rich people were evil and greedy and all this kind of stuff, and how money didn't make you happy and all that kind of stuff. And then on top of that, the dad gets killed, not killed, but he gets blasted with a shotgun. And last time I heard, he's in a secret location, and the guys that actually shot him, funnily enough, ended up dead. They ended up killed as well. So, look, all this bad stuff. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I had a lot of negative and not a lot of prospects looking at, around me. And when I went to school even, I was shown up in front of my whole year when I was told that, my exam results, my mock exam results were terrible by a guy called Mr. Shillito, and he said, look, if you don't do well in this class, you've got a very small chance of succeeding in life, and kind of everyone was laughing around me. And then on the last year of school, during my GCSEs, I was bullied, and I was bullied because the kids didn't want to bully the actual kid that they knew was the culprit of the thing, because he was a big kid. So they turned to me and they bullied me. And throughout the whole final year of my GCSEs, when I should have been studying, I was actually eating my lunch in the toilet in the manor house. I was leaving school 5 minutes early to get a head start home. I was bunking off school. It was a really, really tough time. I couldn't focus, and as a result, I failed my GCSEs. So I had all that going on, right? I had all that going on, and where I am today, okay, so where I am right now had nothing to do with any external things that happened to me. Okay, all I had to do was change my thoughts, or I had to control my perceptions and my decisions and my actions, and that's it. That's all we can control. They're the only three things we control. So I had to change how I perceived it, what I perceived, what decisions and choices I could make to respond or react to things, and then what actions I was going to take based on those choices. And then where I am today in this moment in time as a profitable trader, an investor, a business owner, a father, a husband, is all down to thoughts. It all stems from thoughts. It doesn't stem from any external things that happen. I could have really gone off the rails. I really, really could have gone off the rails with that upbringing, and I've never shared that upbringing in that much detail with you guys, but I could have ended up in a different place. And I was talking to this person about excuses, and they were kind of saying, well, look, I haven't got enough time, or I haven't got enough money, or there's not enough hours in the day, and all that kind of stuff. And I think, are you asking yourself the right questions? Because the quality of your life is directly correlated and dictated by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. So I could have easily said, why me? Why have I got this crap life? Why has my dad run off with another woman? Why has my dad been shot? Why has my mum not want to talk to me? Why do we have to live on this estate where everyone's negative towards money? Why do I have to, sit in a dark corridor? Why are there men knocking at the door for our bills when we can't pay them? Why this? Why that? Why this? Why that? Or I could have said, well, why are people so sad about money? Instead of saying things like money can't buy happiness, you can think, well, poverty can't buy happiness. Or if you're not good with money, just turn it and say, I am actually a master of money, and I'll do whatever it takes. And regardless of what anyone says to me or anyone's opinion of what money is or what I can or can't do, I'm going to question that. I'm going to take the advice with a pinch of salt, and I'm going to question it, and I'm going to choose what I want to do. And I'm going to look at every single person who tries to give me advice and ask myself, have they got the life that I want? Have they got the results that I want? Because I'm free to choose to do whatever the hell I want. And it all depends on your approach, your next step, based on your choices, which are based on your thoughts, your belief. So the only thing limiting you in your life is your belief that there are limits in the first place. And how you approach something and how you choose to construct, and go about your day and every day will dictate what results you get in life. But it has to come from your thought and your belief in yourself and a decision to give yourself permission to go after it and do what you want to do. Okay? And at the same time, make sure that you're listening to any excuses that crop up in the meantime and ask yourself, do I actually want to go after what I feel that I should go after? If the answer is no, listen to the excuses. Listen to what your excuses that have come up are and try and navigate towards that instead. If you're not where you want to be and you really aren't where you want to be and the answer's, yes, I actually have been trying, but I'm not where I want to be, look at the advice you've been taking from people, okay, and ask yourself, do they have the results? Is it relevant what they're telling me? And can I choose? Is there a choice here between going from A to B? Because there always is. So that's the rant for this week, guys. Hopefully you got value from that. If you enjoyed it or you feel like someone needs to hear this, please, please, please share this podcast around. It will really mean the world to me. I get out and speak on this podcast every week, and I hope that it'll reach as many people as possible. And I've had a lot of good reviews, and it inspires me to keep going. And you, by sharing this podcast around, it really does light me up when I see someone who's just messaged me to say, so-and-so recommended your podcast, and I'm forever grateful. It's really helped me out, and it's truly inspiring. So please share it around. And until next week, guys, have a great rest of your day and weekend, and I'll see you then.
For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongraystone.com.